Welcome to College Bound Success, College to Career, the podcast for college curious and college bound students and families. Together, we'll navigate the journey from high school to higher education and beyond. I'm Mark Mostalski, an independent college success consultant, here to share strategies, insights, and stories to help you make confident choices about college, careers, and your future. So, let's get started. I'm really excited because today I'm joined by my guest, Jordan Reuille-Dupont. I've known Jordan, also known as Joe, for quite some time, and I'm really excited to reconnect with you, Joe, and kind of talk about, not only where you come from, but a little bit about college and your experience, and also what you're doing today because I think a lot of people listening to this are going to be pretty intrigued by your role with kind of a startup young company called Mixlo and music and AI and the intersections of all that. So we're going to get into that, but let's just start with who are you? Where are you from, and what do you do?
Yeah, so obviously you already said my name, so Jordan or Joe. But yeah, I'm from Durango, Colorado, which is how I know Mark.
Love
And
it.
yeah, I'm from a lot of different places, honestly. I've lived in 6 different states, 2 different countries, backpacked for about a year and a half around the world. So it's hard to say that I'm from one area, but I mostly claim Colorado because at the end of the day, that's where I feel like my heart kind of is.
Good
Um,
place
my,
to be from.
yeah, my parents are still there, and it's a great place to be from. But yeah, I love to be outside. I'm an outdoor enthusiast. Anything that gets me out and about is something that I like crave and kind of need in my life. And I love obviously music. I love going to shows, festivals, those sorts of things. Really into reading and yoga and meditation and cooking. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on. I like doing a lot of things.
So what's the last book you've read?
Oh, I'm currently reading them right now. So I like fantasy, okay?
Uh-huh.
And this book is by Brandon Sanderson and it's called The Way of Kings. It's a 5 book series. I'm currently
Mm,
finishing the 4th book right now.
okay.
And they're super long. They're like I'm listening to them right now, so they're like 55-hour long books. But
Wow.
they're kind of like Game of Thrones-esque style.
Okay.
um, Super interesting. I really like the character development, everything, the world building is really hard in the first book. Like it takes you a while to get into it. But those are the
Right.
types of books that I love because it's like you actually have to think, and the stuff that they say is stuff that I could actually apply to my own life.
Yeah.
I can't think of the one that I just heard yesterday, but it was something about what courage means and like yeah, something like with curiosity and courage and how that curiosity is actually a really good thing. I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, so they're really interesting books and it's a fun thing to do in my free time for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, my wife's definitely into fantasy. I like it too. I don't read as much of it as I do other things, but I will share that with her. The Way of Kings.
Yes, yes,
Which is-
definitely a great series. Great
Yeah.
series.
Now I know right now you're in Salt Lake.
Mhm.
Another great kind of outdoorsy town, right?
Yeah.
Mountains right there, and whether it's skiing, backpacking, whatever. And do you want to just quickly talk about like what do you currently do and Mixlo?
Yeah, totally. So, and I can also kind of back up and talk about how I got here too, if that's something
Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah, so from Durango, but I left and went to Portland for school. And then during COVID, I ended up moving into a car and doing COVID camp or like college in a car camping basically with 2 of my friends. So we were kind of just bopping around. And then when that kind of ended, we ended up being lifties in Tahoe for a
Mm.
season. So did that, lived in California for a little bit. And then when it was time to go back to school again, I went back to Portland. And then I was trying to figure out what to do next. I have a tumultuous relationship with Portland in general. It's kind of like a love-hate, you know? And there's a lot of things that I love about the city. It's beautiful. The nature is incredible. You know, like it's very quirky, very cute, lots of fun things to do. But at the end of the day, I'm more of a desert child than I thought I was. And the rain kind of breeds the introverted hermits, you know, that like to read and hang out with cats. And I did learn that I'm not a dog person through that experience. And I probably
Really? Okay.
person. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I don't want to stay here because this is just, it's too taxing kind of on my mental health. And as a person that claims to be mostly extroverted, it was tough. But so then I was thinking, okay, like where do I go next? You know, and I knew I wanted to travel for a little bit and then kind of figure out like, okay, I want a city. I love to also social dance, partner dance. So that was a huge draw for me. I wanted to be in a place that had access to that. But then I also wanted the mountains and I wanted to be able to ski and do all my outdoor things. So, you know, I thought about it for a long time, thought I would go maybe to Montana, maybe to Banff. And then one of my best friends from Durango, I don't know if you know Gwen Stoddard, but yes, she ended up moving out here with her boyfriend and convincing me to come. So I followed them a couple months later and it actually ended up being a really good fit. So I'm happy that I ended up here. And yeah, so how I got into Mixlo. So when I first moved here, so I moved around a lot, obviously. And I've kind of learned that you have to put yourself out there or you're going to have, like, you still kind of have like a 3-month period where you're not going to know anybody really. You know, you're not going to have the support system that you're used to. You're not going to know what things are around to do. So like it feels really lonely, right? Like, and I've had to learn kind of the difference between what being alone is and what lonely is as well through all this. But yeah, so I got to Salt Lake and I said, okay, I know that I know Gwen and her boyfriend and I love them, but I need more friends and I need, like, I don't want to be a third wheel this whole time, you know? And I also didn't have money. I didn't have a house, didn't have a car. So I was like, all right, I need to figure out how I'm going to make all this work. So I started going to just different events around town. And my second weekend here, I was out dancing by myself at a country bar. And I happened to dance with the co-founder of Mixlo. And he was probably one of the only people that night that I was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. And I just graduated with a marketing degree. You know, if you hear of anything, let a girl know. And and he was like, oh, I actually am working on a project and we're hiring out a marketing team. Maybe you'd be interested. So, you know, he told me about what Mixlo is and I got really interested in it, obviously. And the next day I went and had lunch with the CEO and we kind of hit it off. And now I'm the head of innovation and strategy for the company. And Mixlo itself is a music tech company. So we're basically like a Spotify meets Bandsintown, but centered around local artist discovery. So like it's for artists themselves, venues, local venues, and fans. So we want to kind of give back to the fan community in a way, where like, you know, right now as a fan, like we were just talking about this, how you miss the days when you could buy CDs and like actually really support an artist that you're trying to see and love, you know, listening to. But we want to offer kind of like a tipping system through our platform where like, say you go see somebody that you really love, you can then buy coins through our app and tip them. And 100% of the coins that are in your wallet goes directly to that artist. So right now, Spotify gives about 0.002 cents for every stream, but that's if you even make the threshold to make money off of those streams, right? So it's barely anything. So like if you give $2 to an artist, that's a huge plus for them compared to what they're making right now. So yeah, and then as a fan, if you know, start supporting an artist early on in their career, as they grow, you also grow as a fan. So like you get a thing that we're going to call fan score and like points. So on the Discover page, you're not only going to have music that's around you that's localized and venues that are around you and shows that are happening, but you're also going to have the fan content. So like the best playlists that are coming out of your area or, you know, like what fans recommend and those sorts of things. So it's been fun. It's definitely like, it's a journey for sure. I'm also a nanny on the side. So,
wow.
But yeah, like every day is a fun new challenge for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow. That's really great. So you've got the Mixlo and you're a nanny.
Yeah.
You're staying busy and you're dancing.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Oh, that's great. One of the things I love about that story is like so many people think today that job hunting is about how many resumes can I send out, right? And
Mhm.
your story shows, right? You decided a lot of people, let's be honest, Joe, a lot of people would be like, wait, you went out dancing by yourself? Yeah,
Totally,
yeah. And
totally.
you said, yeah, I'm gonna go dance by myself. And here you are, you have a job, let's with that company, basically because you made that choice and went out there and you happen to meet this guy, right? One of the people that helped start it because you said, let's dance. And oh, by the way, this is me and I'm looking for a job.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah. And like a quote that I've been really loving recently is like, you know, some people call it being lucky, but at the end of the day, a lot of luck is earned.
Mhm.
And I think that that's super true. Like, I mean, like, yeah, I'm really lucky because I was able to find a job in a market where it's really tough. You know, like a lot of my
Mhm.
friends right now are struggling coming out of college and finding something. But, you know, to that point, like a couple months ago, we were in this period with Mixlo where we're in between funding, right? So like we're planning these like soft rollouts and things that are hopefully going to happen in almost a month to date, which
Mhm.
is really exciting. But we are kind of an equity-based company at the moment. So like our team is phenomenal. Like we have some really great people on board, but we're not really getting paid. So we reached a
Right.
point a couple months ago where I was like, all right, like I need to figure out what I'm going to do in the meantime, while still being really hands-on with what we're doing here. And I'm also like one of three people, four kind of, that live in Salt Lake, and the rest of our team is spread out all over the world.
Oh,
So like,
okay.
so it's a pretty remote thing. But I also work like hand in hand with the CEO. So like I'm kind of meeting with him on the regular. Um, but yeah, so anyway, so I like started looking for a new job couple months ago, and I was like making my eyes bleed, replying to all these different Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, whatever's, you know, and I wasn't getting any responses. And at one point, like I called my parents and I was like, you know, I feel defeated. Like, how am I not? I can't even get a restaurant job. Like, this is crazy. And like, and I had gone into a couple different restaurants and like handed in my resume. And I've been in the restaurant industry since I was 14 and like a server
Wow.
for 5 years. And like, I was like, what is like, where's the disconnect happening? You know?
Mhm.
And my parents were like, well, you know, like, what are you good at? How have you gotten every single job basically to date? And I was like, well, talking to people, going out, networking, you know, and they were like,
Yeah.
well, then you need to go do that. Like,
Yeah.
you need to get out of your house and go do that. And so I actually like changed my mindset. And within 2 weeks of me doing that, I had two other nanny jobs offered to me. So like it is kind of like I've been playing around a lot with the idea of like, you know, the universe responds to who you are, not exactly what you want. And I think that like right now there's a lot of conversations happening with like manifesting and even praying and just like thinking about you know, like the energy that you put out is what you're going to attract back, right? But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, it is kind of like on you to make that next step, to go dancing, to go
Yeah.
out, to go to these different events, to actually put yourself in front of people that are going to like give you those opportunities, right?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, I mean, I've had so many conversations about this with my friends like in the last couple months too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is like it's hard, and especially with AI and stuff, you know, like there's so many bots applying to all these things too. So like you're not even
Right.
just having to sift through, like even from us, like hiring people, like just sift through kind of those. But yeah, like yeah, to find the actual talent, like people are still talent scouting, but to actually
Mhm.
find it is tough. So like
Yeah.
getting in front of the people that matter is kind of the only way, I feel like. I don't
Absolutely.
know if you have a
Absolutely.
different opinion, but
No, I
yeah.
totally agree with you. I don't think that's changed. Sending out 1,000 resumes today is not going to increase your odds. It's just,
Yeah, totally.
it's still about that connection. And not to say that's easy today. A lot of companies do put up, right, barriers and guardrails and stuff, but it does mean, kind of like your point, I got to go try something different. I got to go, I have to go meet people and be face to face.
Mhm.
So let's step back again. Let's think about and help the listeners. What was your college journey? So growing up, in Durango, you went to high school in Durango. What was that college journey like? I mean, obviously there's a lot of schools that you could have probably gone to, and why did Portland State kind of land on the place that you ended up going?
Yeah, okay, so to kind of back up on who I am, I've been a kind of a little entrepreneur for my whole life. I'm lucky because my mom is also one, so the apple doesn't fall far from the trees. And but yeah, I mean, I started selling chocolate bars out of my backpack when I was 5, just to other kids in school. Started selling rock sculptures on the side of the road, started doing lemonade stands, and then like when I got to middle school, I was given an opportunity through my school where a teacher was wanted to take kids abroad. And I was one of his favorite students, so I got to go on that trip, which was awesome.
Mhm.
But we sold chocolate bars for 2 years to make the money to do that. So I went back to selling chocolate, did that, went to Europe, which was amazing. And I kind of just like got a taste for just new cultures and new experiences through that. And I ended up going to Ecuador and in high school doing a semester abroad. Loved that absolutely. And so I was like, okay, like I want something that's new for college. Like I want to be somewhere where obviously I can have nature, I can have the mountains.
Right.
I would love to be on a beach because I hadn't spent a lot of time on a beach. And yeah, and I knew like, somebody told me at one point that the East Coast was skinny jeans and the West Coast was sweatpants. And I was like, I just don't think I want to wear skinny jeans right now. So I went west. And then I was like, okay, well, if I want mountains and a beach, I could do California, but like that's hard to do. And I didn't necessarily want the heat of California. I wanted snow
Right.
still. So which is funny because I ended up in Tahoe, but yeah, so I ended up in Portland because it just like it had both the things. Like I don't know if you know this, but the Portland metro area is an hour away from the beach and an hour away from the mountains. So it's
Yes.
like kind of smack dab in the middle. And actually, like my dad has worked at the fort or he doesn't anymore, but he worked there for I don't even know how long. It was like over 15 years, I think.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, so he worked at a college. I grew up in a college. So I always kind of knew that that was what I was going to do. And they kind of pushed for it too. Like my mom has a PhD and the education is just very valuable in my family. So it's, yeah, it was always something that like was talked about. And when it came time for me to go, my dad kind of already had a list of colleges that he thought I would love.
Really?
Yes. So he actually helped me find Portland also. Like I knew what I wanted, like geographically wise, but he was kind of like, okay, well, you're gonna want a good rec center, first of all.
Of course.
Yeah, like you're gonna want access to these different amenities. You're gonna want this sort of business school because like I knew that I wanted to go in business, right?
Mhm.
And he also helped me pick out my major actually, because he was like, okay, like if you want to go into business, I think you should do marketing because that's like one of the best up and coming things. You can do a lot of stuff with that. You can like if you want to start your own business, you can do that with that. Like you're gonna learn kind of everything that you need to know through
Mhm.
that. So I was like, sure, why not? For sure. And went into that. And yeah, we had looked at like Bellingham too, but
Mhm.
I just knew that that was going to be too dark for me because they really spend like I don't even know like 8 to 10 months in rain, and that's just a lot. Like at
Right.
6 months is kind of Portland, a little bit more, sometimes 8, but yeah, and that's even a lot. But yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of like how I ended up there doing that.
Wow. So one day your dad came to you with a list of schools.
Pretty much, yeah. Because I was kind of applying and then kind of like not being super serious about it, but I also just like didn't know what I wanted, you know,
Yeah.
and I was like, I, yeah, like, I don't know, I was just playing around with a lot of ideas. And then he was like, all right, babe, like, I'm gonna sit you down. These are some really good schools that you should look at. And I kind of picked out my favorites from that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, these actually sound pretty cool. And they sound like they would align with kind of my values in life. And yeah, so I got down
Now,
like,
did you go and tour Portland State?
yeah, we
And
did.
do you remember when you went there and you did that tour, like was it one of those you got out of the car and you're like, "Yep, this is it," or what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so we went to Bellingham and then Olympia and then which I think it's the Olympic National Forest, right? So like it's Evergreen is the college
Yep,
name.
Evergreen State.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we visited Sam and Natalie. But I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so we went there and then we went to Portland, and Portland was the last one. So we went like through Bellingham, and I was like, this is beautiful. It actually reminded me a lot of Wisconsin, just like
Mhm.
culture wise and things. And then we got down to Evergreen, and I was like, this is cool, but it's way out in the middle of the forest, and I don't know if this is quite what I want.
Yeah.
And, like I've never really been a city person, but I also knew that in my like 20s, I kind of wanted more just things happening. So like I
Mhm.
wanted to kind of be more in that city atmosphere. So when we got to Portland, it kind of had the perfect fit. Like Bellingham was a lot like Durango, and I was just looking for something new. So like I got there and I was like, all right, this is the last one that I wanted to check out. So and then I kind of like, we were walking through it and I was like, actually, this feels right. Like I think that this is where I need to be. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I had a chance. I went about a year and a half ago. I went and I was in Portland and I toured Portland State. Also went to Reed, and then went down to Willamette. So I got to hit some schools in there. Um, oh, that's great. So what would you say when you reflect back on that time, like today? What's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self about that college search process?
yeah, so with the college search process, I would say I would have done a little bit more research myself, to be
Hmm.
honest. Because I did just kind of like jump in when my dad gave me that list. I was like, perfect, all right, I don't need to think about it now. Um, but I probably would have done a little bit more research, and I wish I kind of would have asked more about the culture of the city itself, like not
Hmm.
necessarily just the school. And so something else that Portland is like it's 36,000 people, right? But it's a commuter campus. So
Right.
the average age in my class is 27.
Mm.
And there was about 2,000 people that lived on campus, but we were like downtown in Portland.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and like that was kind of harder than I anticipated. Just because like, like I was in groups with some really intelligent people and awesome people, but at the end of the day, they had 3 kids at home. And like, it's not like the same camaraderie, like, oh, we're in this
Mm.
together, we're doing this process together. And I mean, obviously, I learned a lot of different things than I would have if I had just gone to a traditional school. But yeah, I mean, like that sort of stuff, I would have liked to kind of know that a little bit more. Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess like at the end of the day, I'm glad that I chose where I did. I think it was a
Good.
good fit overall.
Yeah.
But it was harder than it could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. So you knew going into it that you were going to go into marketing. And you mentioned how you've always had kind of that entrepreneurial approach. Um, and I'm also interested, you added on Spanish as a
Mhm.
minor. What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, so like I mean, I lived in Ecuador, right? So like I was there for 6 months. And part of the reason why I went there was because I wanted to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I was like, all right, well, if I want to keep this going, I have to keep studying it or I'm gonna lose it, right?
Right.
Um, so that was the main draw for that. Really, like it was more of like a personal interest than it was anything else. I mean, obviously, like being able to say that I'm bilingual is a really good thing within the job force,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and with career searches and things. But yeah, like, I mean, to be honest, it was just more of like a personal hobby that I
Yeah.
wanted to keep up.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, definitely recommend it to whoever's thinking about doing it. Because, like, I mean, for example, people in my classes did not speak Spanish truly until I got to like my last two classes of college. Like, and I
Mm.
took it all the way throughout middle school, everything, like took AP Spanish in high school. Nobody knew how to actually talk and listen. They knew how to
Mm.
read and write until I got to
Right.
the last two classes. So like if there's anybody that's like thinking like, oh, I don't know if I can do it, whatever, like I mean, everybody that's in those classes is also pretty much a beginner, to be honest,
Yeah.
unless you're like in like the traditional heritage classes, right? Native
Yeah.
speaking classes.
Well, and I think I mean Spanish, I was never a natural with Spanish, or any language. I'm not even a natural with English. But there is no doubt, I think today that language, Spanish, my sister's background was actually Japanese.
Hmm.
She studied abroad in Japan her senior year of high school, and it changed her life. She ended up doing a bachelor's and a master's in Japanese language. She was a
Wow.
teacher, she was a consultant, and she ended up working for the state of Wisconsin as their world language leader statewide, all because her connection to the Japanese language and so forth. So I definitely think, um, even though it's not something that I had, there's no doubt today the ability to speak and learn different cultures, for both travel, purposes, but also, professional for sure. Yeah, that's a
Really,
great thing.
definitely.
Yeah. So what would you say, let's kind of move beyond college now back to your professional role with Mixlo. What do you enjoy most about your job?
Honestly, like the freedom of creativity, I
Uh-huh.
think. Like I tend to be more of an out of the box thinker. And obviously, like I'm nervous about it, honestly, because I am only 24 and I'm the youngest person on our team. So like when we actually get launched and things, I'm nervous about like, like having imposter syndrome and not really knowing what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, I don't think like I mean people know what they're doing in their careers, but when it comes to what we're doing with Mixlo, it is kind of a new thing in general. So
Mhm.
like everybody's going to be learning at this point. We're all going to have to grow with it. So I try to remind myself that a lot. But yeah, I mean, I love, yeah, just the freedom to be creative with it all. And like, it's hard to really tell right now what my job's going to look like in 6 months when we actually do get kind of launched. Because right now I've just kind of been helping set up everything, like figuring out, what does a company need? Like, when do we hire on HR? When are we going to bring in payroll? When are we, like how are we going to strategically set up these timelines for different departments so that we're staying on top of tasks? How are we going to delegate those? How are we getting investment? So what are we doing with partnerships? Like there's just so many different moving pieces. Like I was even just like on a call about our data strategy. And I don't really know what we're going to do with our data strategy because I'm not qualified to be in that. But honestly, there isn't really a person on our team right now that's super qualified to say like what we're going to do with the data strategy. So like it kind of just we have to get the ball rolling and then we'll eventually bring on people, that can kind of do that better. But um yeah, so like that's what I kind of like, and I've been in a corporate job before and things, and it is really nice. Like you get kind of the cushion of like, oh, like, I was an intern for a sales rep at a insurance company, and we were bringing people out in the company car and every single day. Like, it was so nice. Like everything was provided. I got benefits. I had Christmas gifts and like, all these little things. But I also knew that that wasn't really going to satisfy me in the long run, like I kind of live a little bit of a chaotic life, so it kind of fits me to be more in this startup kind of situation.
Yeah, that's where I was going to kind of ask you next is, um, I'm sure there's people that they look for that. I want the stability, the company that's been around. They're going to offer me the 401k, and I know the company is going to be here in 10 years. Although today, who knows what company is going to
Yeah.
be around in 5 or 10 years, right?
Hmm.
Um, so it sounds like that you kind of like the you mentioned like the creativity. I'm sure the way they look at it is they're like, yeah, Joe, if that's what you want to do, go for it. We need somebody to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's, it's nice because I kind of came up with this role and then my boss was like, yeah, that's a good fit. Let's try it out. you know so it kind of like, and I mean, I've done a lot of work for them, obviously, like I would like to think that I've earned my position and my keep thus far, but yeah, I mean, it is nice because I just got to kind of be like, okay, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, how do I play to those, and yeah, I mean, like, to your point though, you could go for a stable job now, but like my boyfriend just recently got laid off and he's in finance, and he's like, what do I do? Like, my job is pretty much like everything that has to do with numbers and budgeting and accounting. That's kind of the first one to go, So like, does he continue to pursue a career within this field, or does he try to pivot and either, learn how to use AI really well to do those things so that he can be kind of more of that person, like that spokesperson in the next 5, 10 years? But then when the 10 years is up, is that even going to still be around? Or does he try to be a carpenter, or like, like do something that's a little bit more hands-on that's going to be around for a little bit longer? Um, like, yeah, it's hard to make that decision for sure. But I don't know. I don't have kids. I don't have pets. I just basically support myself. So it's like, this is kind of the best time for me to do something like this, take a chance. And then if it doesn't work out, I've got time to figure out how to fix that.
Right.
But I'm fingers crossed it's gonna work out. So
Yeah. Oh, of course. Absolutely. It'll work out the way it's meant to be.
yes, absolutely.
I'm wondering, so quick, I'll give you, when I was in mechanical engineering at when I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I remember I would do like book learning, right? And then you do homework, and then I would go out into the real world and I would actually see, the systems that I was studying in the books. And it was like, oh, like what I learned in the book versus what I'm seeing in real life, like it's really different. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering, could you speak to, like, have there been surprises what you learned in your degree at Portland State, and then now that you're in, IRL, right, in real life in the
Mhm.
world, is there something you're like, wow, that this is just so different than what I was being taught or I thought about when I was in college?
Hmm. That's a hard question. I mean, I don't know. Like, the first thing that comes to my mind, which this is kind of answering that, but I gotta find this like kind of quote thing really fast. But basically, like, so I'm thinking of like supply and demand, right? So within my field, like, it's not really the supply of demand. It's more, if you wait, let's see. I've got it right here, I think. Um, so like, the music industry is not devoted to the production of supply, but rather to the production of demand itself.
Hmm.
So when I took that class, this is not what I was expecting it to be, Because like, you constantly like, okay, here's the demand, or like, how many supplies do we need to meet the demand? But this is like, no, we need to create the demand and then give the supplies, kind of, right?
Ah,
So I think like that was something that I was not expecting. And to be honest, I mean, my whole career is way different than I anticipated. Like, I thought that I was going to go into outdoor something, like
hmm.
marketing for some outdoor company or something. So I kind of spent a lot of time in those classes. But the music industry is its own beast. Like it is so complex. There's so many different moving pieces. So like all of that training that I did was kind of for nothing. And I kind of had to go back and spend these last 2 years really being like, okay, what is the music industry? What is the difference between licensing and contracts and, like publishers and
Mm.
like record labels and distributors and like, like there's just so many different things that you have to play with. So that's kind of what I would say. I do think something that was shocking too, which is also kind of like off topic, but kind of in the same realm, is like
Yeah.
I was in a digital media marketing class at one point, and have you ever seen The Social Dilemma? Maybe.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I watched that movie when it first came out because I've always kind of been like, I want a flip phone. I want to get off my screens. I don't want to like,
Yeah.
be in this as much. And my family follows those characters like pretty much to a T. Like my younger brother, who's only 4 years younger than me, was constantly on a phone, constantly like his whole world revolved around being on a screen.
Right.
And so anyway, so my teacher in the class was like, has anybody seen this film? And half the class raised their hands, and then like half of that half put their hands down and said, well, I didn't finish it because it kind of freaked me out. And that was crazy to me at the time because I like took a look around and I was like, do you guys not realize that that's what you're learning right now is the psychology behind these marketing tactics to keep people addicted to these platforms? Like that's what this is, and like it was just very surprising that people didn't really like put two and two together. But I definitely think like through COVID and things like that became a lot more apparent, right? Like people realized, okay, this is an addiction, it's a problem,
Right.
so I'm hoping it's on the right trajectory now, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's certainly something, that I try to be, aware of and careful with. You mentioned the social dilemma. I also watched and I can't remember which platform it's on, whether it's Netflix or Hulu or whatever, but it's called Social Studies.
Mhm.
And it actually follows a cohort of high schoolers and the challenges they have around social media and so yeah, that's another example of
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've seen that one, but I think I've heard about it though.
yeah. So you mentioned you worked like in an insurance company, it sounds like, and now with a startup, Mixlo. So what would be, not thinking about like, oh, I got a degree in marketing, but what would you say is the transferable skills that you learned that regardless of where you go next or what you do, what's gonna suit you well regardless of the career or job that you're in?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind is when I was working as a sales representative intern, my boss said, learn how to ask good questions
Mm,
and learn how to be an attentive listener, right? Because at the end of the day, like in kind of the theme of my life so far is like I'm a people person, right? Like I want to be out talking to people. I want to be in the field. I want to be making connections. And I think that stuck with me throughout kind of the last 5 years. It's just like, okay, how do I engage people and ask them questions that's not just surface level, right? And I think that that's something that like I really love about this industry too is I've been to a couple conferences where like when you talk to people it's like genuine conversations, like you're like getting down to really deep points really fast with strangers that you just met,
mhm.
and I think like in some other fields like I've heard from my friends like real estate or banking and things like it tends to just kind of sit on that surface and not go
Mm,
any deeper. So I've kind of been trying, and I mean, it's a constant growth process, but like, how do you really engage people in that conversation that you want to be having, you know?
right.
But yeah, so I think that's like kind of the biggest thing, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think today, even just trying to get people to engage in that level of conversation, because you can't do that with 144 characters.
Totally.
It takes being willing to say, yes, I'm going to be in a space to be able to have that conversation with you. And it's one thing if it's a friend, but boy, with a stranger, that might seem like a big ask these days.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
but
I
we
mean,
need more of it. We need more of it.
yeah, yeah, totally. And like you never know, what conversations you're gonna have. Like, I don't know, like I was working at Columbia for a little bit and this older gentleman came in at one point and he just sat down and I ended up talking to him and I was like, wow, if I wouldn't have just said hello and like, I don't even know what I said to like introduce the conversation, but I never would have had that conversation with him. And he was talking about like kind of just noise and how he was like mad about how much noise there is nowadays and there's constantly something playing and he was kind of mad at our like playlist that we had and I was mad at it too because it was 2 hours long and they played it on repeat um like yeah, I mean it was interesting and insightful though because it made me think like you know what would my life be like with silence. And I've talked to people about that too where like have you sat in silence recently? you know and I actually just learned through this book about Spotify like their goal, like they said for a really long time that their main competition isn't Apple Music and SoundCloud and some of these other bigger streaming platforms. It's silence. So they
Mm.
just want to be playing in the background 24/7, like when you wake up, when you go to bed, like that's their goal is to get you to
Just
be on the platform.
constant. They want to be the white
Yeah.
noise in the background.
Yeah, yeah. And to be honest, like they did a good job. Because like I listen, like I have a speaker in my ear a lot of the time, like I'm constantly listening to music and like I get up to music. It helps me get up in the morning. I like go to bed sometimes to different like harmonies and things. And yeah, so I mean, I would say like it's hard to have conversations with strangers, but and I'm really glad that I was able to do kind of the traveling pieces that I was and move to all these different places because it makes you really say, okay, I'm here alone. How do I start those conversations?
Yeah.
I don't want to be necessarily alone right now. So how do I go make a friend? Like do
Right.
like, like I wouldn't just like here in Salt Lake go to a restaurant, eat by myself, see somebody else eating alone and go sit with them and say like,
Mhm.
hey, can I join you? Which is kind of sad because like there's a lot of really cool, connections that you can be had when you do that. But I think when you're out traveling, you kind of get desperate and then you just start being like, all right, well, why wouldn't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
I'm before we hit record on this session, you and I were chatting a little bit, and you did share with me how through your time at Portland State that you were kind of got into the front end of like music and AI and that crossover. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily get into the music necessarily
Okay.
during that time, but yeah, I like, well, because I had watched some of those videos, I had been kind of paying attention to what the difference of influences versus manipulation and how that line is just constantly being crossed, especially nowadays. Like I don't know, it's gotten to a point where I don't even think that they can be distinguished, I guess.
Mhm.
Like they're kind of one and the same in a lot of ways when it comes to marketing. Um, so yeah, so I kind of just wanted to explore that more. And I was in two different honors programs at the time. And one of my honors programs had me write a thesis at the end of my senior year. So I was thinking about it for a long time, like, what do I want to do this on? And I kind of just wanted to figure out what AI was, you know,
Mm.
at the end of the day, I was like, okay, what is this? How do I break this down? What's the difference between sentience, intelligence, and consciousness? Like, how does that play within the marketing realm? And yeah, so I ended up like writing my paper on the unregulated power dynamics of artificial intelligence and big data from a
Okay.
marketing perspective of consumer manipulation in business, which I know is a mouthful, but
That is a title. That is
yeah,
long.
yes, but it was like 50 pages long. which is also crazy because a lot of people only wrote like 20. And I like could have kept going too. And my advisor was like, all right, you need to stop. Like you're gonna graduate soon. You need to have this done. Like you need to tie up some of these loose ends. But yeah, so that's how I kind of got into it. And then when talking about music stuff, you know, we're talking about building a platform that's all centered around human connection, right? And kind of getting back to the basics of what it means to go to a show and kind of be alive and to feel those feelings that you have when you go and do those things, right? And when it comes to AI, like that's a huge, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a pain point right now in the industry, because I mean, you know, people said that auto tune was going to be a huge like breaking point for the industry, but obviously it wasn't. So like, I don't know. I mean, we're going to see how it plays out. But I definitely am interested to see where it goes. Like we talk about, you know, like, do we let AI music on our platform? And to be honest, I don't know if we will, especially in the beginning, just because like we are kind of centered around more of those smaller artists. Like we're not even probably going to have the big known artists for a while, like Beyonce and Bad Bunny and those sorts of people.
Right.
Like we just want to really focus on like the people that are here and now. So yeah, I don't know. It's a continued, like it's a conversation that we have to, you know, it's evergreen. We're gonna have to keep having it. So
yeah, it's only gonna keep coming, so that it's not gonna go away.
yeah, exactly.
There's probably things that you and I sitting here today on, you know, August 21st of 2025, we're not even thinking about even probably a year out. You know, it's just progressing so rapidly.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I think what was the statistic? Oh, I'm totally gonna butcher this right now, but I think it was like in the next 10 years or so, the collective like knowledge of AI programs is going to be greater than all of human history combined.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, something like that, which is crazy. I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of years worth of, you know, stories and knowledge. And yeah, so it's definitely, I mean, yeah, it's something that's going to keep changing and keep progressing, whether we want it to or not. So I think it's, you know, staying on top of it. Like I had a woman in one of my classes one time. I think she was about 50, late 50s. And she posted in a discussion forum, like I feel like I'm dying. Like I feel like I can't keep afloat in this crazy ocean of information and knowledge, and I just feel like I'm being left behind constantly. Like how do you guys deal with this, you know? And I responded to her and I said, well, I feel like that's been every day for me that I've been alive. Like, and I feel like, you know, for her at the time, it was like, okay, this is the last 10 years, 20 years of trying to keep up. But for me, every single day that I've been in school, like in elementary school, everything, people were telling us, okay, if you don't fix something, the world's going to die. Or like, you know, you have to keep up with the trends. You have to be on like social media. You have to be kind of involved in a different way, which is honestly super taxing and draining. But it's also kind of just the reality of where things are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on that, let's kind of move towards wrapping up. This has been a really great conversation. So I'm wondering, I always ask the same question of all my guests. So what is one piece of advice that you've received from a friend, a family member, a mentor, a coach, a boss, etc., that just has really stuck with you?
Yeah, so I think one of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn is to put myself first in situations. You know, and somebody told me at one point, you know, when you are a sun in the sky and you see yourself being surrounded by clouds, sometimes you have to move because you want to have a sunny day, you know, and that, like, that's probably been one of the key, I guess, pieces of advice that I've stuck on to for the last like decade or so. And I think like when I went into college, I was a lot more open, a lot more like, you know, I want everybody to be my friend. I want to meet all these different people. I want to, you know, do all these things. And then it kind of bit me in the ass in a way. And I had to really, think like, okay, I need to remove myself from the situation, as hard as that is, because like my own happiness needs to take priority here. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to come to terms with, but I think at the end of the day, like you are kind of all you got in a way, and you need to figure out, how do I, like, that's the best part about being in your 20s is like it's you have the freedom to be bored, right? And like you have the freedom to choose, which can be overwhelming in a lot of different ways, but like how do I make myself happy? What are things that like will get me out of bed? Like how do I make sure that I have stability amidst a chaotic world, chaotic life? Um, and I mean, there are questions also that like, they're going to be ever changing as well. But like, I think your 20s is kind of where you find more of those paths.
Yeah.
So like midlife crises and all, like I think, this is one of the only times in your life where you really do have that freedom to figure those things out. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I mean, it's one thing to say put yourself first, but I liked the kind of the visual that you painted with the you're the sun, be the sun, right? Embrace the sun, and sometimes break out. You don't need to allow those clouds to be around you.
Yeah. We don't need so many rainy days.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, so Joe, if somebody was listening to this and let's start first of all, they wanted to learn more about Mixlo and who they are and what they're doing and what they're all about. How would they learn more about the company?
Yeah. So, oh, I wish I could answer this question in like a couple months because hopefully we'll have more like discussion forums and things available to the general public. But as of right now, we have a website. It's just mixloapp.com. And we have a couple different socials that are just Mixlo. But we will be kind of launching more of a beta per se,
Mhm.
come hopefully in the next month. Fingers
Okay.
crossed. But so if that's something that people are interested in, we're going to be trying to create, more of those communities where you can find that information. We're thinking about doing, different social media campaigns, maybe a Discord along those lines. So really stay tuned. It's Mixlo. Um, so hopefully when you look that up, you'll just be able to find stuff
Yeah.
about us.
So mixloapp.com. And there'll
Mhm.
be more coming. That's great. And then how about you? Maybe they've really enjoyed learning about you and they would like to just connect with you. What's the best way for people to reach you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, if they stuck around this long, that's pretty impressive.
That's right. I'm
Second
sure they
part.
have. They all have.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, just my name is kind of all my socials. So just Jordan Reuille-Dupont. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to grow that out right now. So definitely good place for sure, especially if you want to know more about like what I'm doing career wise. That's where I post all those things. But I also have an Instagram and yeah, that's pretty much it. I have a Facebook, but I'm barely on it. So,
Yeah, I think that's the way a lot of people are. So,
yeah.
oh, great. Well, Joe, thanks so much. I've really appreciated, the conversation, reconnecting, hearing about your own journey. And I'm sure the people listening to this, I think they got some good stuff from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. This was super fun. And I'm glad that we were able to reconnect. It really has been a long time. So,
It
you know,
has.
I,
It has.
I hope that, you've grown into a good person in your eyes because you really like, I mean, like, how old was I when you met me? Like, young,
You
right?
were young. Yep, you were young. I was younger. You were young.
Yeah, like a baby. So,
Yeah,
anyways, this is fun. This is fun.
absolutely. Well, to all of you listening yes, we hope you stuck around for this whole episode. I'd like to thank you for joining me on College Bound Success, College to Career. If you found today's episode helpful, please, follow, rate, share it with someone navigating their own college, and I would say career journey. For more tips, tools, support, visit mostalskicoaching.com. I will put that in the show notes. But until next time, stay curious, stay confident, and stay boundless. Take care.